Hello everybody, my name is Deku Games and welcome to my reaction of Alt-Shift-X's Dune Sequels Explained video. You guys, a few of you had actually told me about this video, and I've actually watched Control-Shift-X's videos of comparing the movie to the book and then explaining the original book before, and I hadn't realized, or maybe I just forgot, knowing me, that he had a sequels video out, and after a few of you had told me, hey, you should do a reaction, we would love to see like your thoughts and so on of you talking about those books. I was like, you know what, yeah, sure, I love yapping, I love talking, I love filling the air with my voice, and I love analyzing stuff. And if potentially some of my hot takes make some people angry, because there was like 2 or 3 people angry at me last time in the comments, calling me woke for saying certain things about the Dune series that is quite obvious. But anyway, let's get into this here.
Dune is one of the most famous sci-fi books ever. The story of Paul Atreides' rise to power is widely read and been made into...
I have actually, I've seen that one. I have the 84 film on my radar, and then the 2000 series on my radar. I want to, like, check those out. I haven't actually watched them yet, because, I don't know, I just haven't really found the time to. But I've seen clips of them, and they are so cool, especially with some of the analysis videos of, like, the differences on the Analyzing Evil episode for the Baron. So,
movies and TV shows. But this book is not the whole story of Dune. Frank Herbert wrote 6 Dune books, and it's only in these sequels that the true meaning of Dune is revealed. The Dune sequel books get weird. Paul's son transforms into a worm god and rules for thousands of years. Duncan Idaho gets resurrected hundreds of times. There's an invasion by dominatrixes from...
I had heard about Duncan Idaho's revival thing and how, like, I saw a video once where, like, he he gets revived and he says, like, as a really sexist remark, and they're like, whoa, whoa, and, like, Leto in his worm form is like, wait, whoa, hold on. I had also known about Leto the Second becoming a worm. I thought that was really cool. And very symbolic, but the dominatrixes from space I didn't know about. I watched a video about if there was aliens or not, and I actually had watched like 3 minutes into this video before I was like, I forgot I need to make a video on this. So,
space and genetically modified cat people and chairs made out of living dogs. And each book is full of secret plots and abstract philosophical ideas. It would take many videos to fully explore these books. So first, what's the basic story? What happens in Frank Herbert's 6 Dune books? In Book 1, House Atreides takes over the desert planet Arrakis, land of sandworms and spice. But they're attacked by the Harkonnens and the Emperor. Paul Atreides unlocks a powerful mind that can see into the future. He becomes a religious leader to the native Fremen and falls in love with Chani. He defeats the Harkonnens and defeats Emperor Shaddam, and Paul becomes Emperor of the universe. So Book 1 seems to be a classic story of a hero fulfilling his destiny and defeating evil. But in Book 2, Dune Messiah, Paul being Emperor is a disaster. The Fremen kill billions of people in their holy war, and Paul can't stop the violence. His religion is out of his control.
Yeah, I remember I got into a discussion with somebody in the comments about that, and like they're like, well, it was the best thing to happen. Like it, like trying to like wrap their mind around it, being like, oh well, it's a good thing that it happened, or like it was the only decent path to take for extinction. And maybe this will go into it more, but I don't think a religious holy war that kills billions of people after rising up against an oppressive government and then becoming said oppressive government is a good outlook and outcome. Like, if it is extinction or becoming the reason for extinction, yeah,
Conspiracy of powerful people plot to destroy Paul, led by Gaius Mahayam and by Paul's wife, Princess Irulan, with a Spacing Guild navigator and a Tleilaxu face dancer, and Paul's own Fremen high priest. These guys have an elaborate plan to destroy Paul, using a cryptic dwarf called Bajaz, who manipulates a resurrected version of Duncan Idaho, who is now a Mentat philosopher with robot eyes. Paul knows there's a plot against him, but he allows some of their plan to happen anyway, because he's afraid of even worse possible futures happening instead. Seeing the future is a curse, a trap that takes away Paul's free will. Paul gets blinded by a nuclear weapon, so he relies on his visions to see, like Neo in The Matrix 3.
Oh, so that's how he loses his eyes. I had heard that he lost his eyes, but I didn't know how he lost his eyes. It's really interesting to hear the reasons of why he believes these are the right things. Because, like, yeah, if you see all of these futures and, like, they're all bad outcomes, maybe it's kind of like how if Doctor Strange looked through all of them and, like, this is the one good one, it's like, well, why don't you just look deeper? Why don't you look more? He he looked through 12 million, but then why don't you look through another 12 million? If you have there was 10 years, why doesn't he was dusted, so but like in that time, why doesn't he just continue looking to see if there was any better option? But obviously with the impending snap, there's not a lot of time. But as God Emperor, as the highest authority in the entire known universe, why he doesn't just be like, okay, let's get some mentats in here, the people computers, and let's calculate out some shit and see what's the best thing, instead of just being like, oh, this is fucked. Well, maybe I just need to do this other fucked thing instead.
Cheney dies giving birth to twins, Leto II and Ganima. Paul wants to escape his grief and politics and destiny, so he walks into the desert to die. So in Dune Messiah, Paul's rise as a heroic leader turns out to have been a terrible mistake. He loses everything he loves and gets billions of people killed. The message is that religious and political leaders are dangerous. Blindly following a messiah or a vision or plan can lead to disaster.
Especially something as fallible as seeing into the future. Like, yeah, you can see into the future, but if you're seeing multiple futures, that tells you that the future isn't set in stone. So him being crushed under all this weight and being like, well, I guess we just have to do the worst thing ever is really tragic. It really is. It's one of those like warning stories where you always need to be cautious of political leaders and so on, especially with how they speak. Obviously there's a ton of nuance to this. It's never black and white. But whenever something comes out and is like, I am the Messiah, or like I will do everything right correctly the first time ever, and like that's it, you kind of like have to make sure they follow through on that, hold them accountable, and not just be like, okay, yeah. It kind of reflects like with our own real world of politics. Like, yeah, there are plenty of politicians out there that say that they want to do great things, but if they don't walk the walk and aren't held accountable, they're just shitting out of their own ass, essentially. Like that's why you have to always hold them up to decencies and so on, and to their own standards and everything like that, to prevent something like that from happening. Obviously, something like Dune is like the most extreme version of that, but we as a people, as a collective, need to be critical, not dismissive or always thinking bad about those that are in power or have the power or represent us, but be critical in a way of always making sure that they are held accountable and not become just complacent, and just always making sure that everything that should be going on in a right way does.
Book 3 is Children of Dune. Paul's sister Alia rules the universe on behalf of young Leto and Ganima. But Alia's mind gets possessed, taken over by the memory of the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Turns out that the Baron was Alia and Paul's grandfather, and his personality corrupts Alia's mind and leads her government into decline. It turns out that changing the environment of Arrakis to have water and plants is a disaster, because without desert, there's no sandworms and no spice, and Fremen desert culture starts to die. Paul turns out to be still alive as a mysterious desert preacher. He criticizes the Atreides' religion and government, but ends up getting stabbed to death by his own priests. When Cecia Carino...
Interesting. That's really interesting. That's such a fall from grace, being the emperor and then just walking the desert and becoming a mad preacher, and then actively speaking out against your own religion that you created, and then ending up getting killed by one of the people that represented you. That's
the
really
daughter
interesting.
of the old Emperor Shaddam plots against the Atreides. She tries to kill Leto and Ganima with laser tigers, so Leto fakes his own death and gets super high in the desert to unlock his mind, and Leto sees a possible future that could save humanity from extinction, a plan called the Golden Path. Leto transforms his own body so he'll become part sandworm and will rule the universe for thousands of years. Jessica deals with the Carinos by converting their heir to...
That's interesting. The Golden Path. That is a really interesting idea, because whenever you're looking at something like this, even if the narrator tells you it's the best thing to do, the narrator could be completely unreliable. But that is always dependent on narrative devices and how the story has been established so far. And it definitely seems like whatever is this golden path, because I know one thing about Leto II is that he has the memories of all of the past people behind him, and then also like the mind of an adult and everything like that, despite being a child. So he could certainly be seeing this golden path through maybe rose-tinted glasses, but being like, maybe this is the golden path, but in one of those corrupted ways, like how there's a lot of tropes out there that talk about how whenever a robot comes into power, they're like, oh, this is the golden path, this is the best solution, and it's just getting rid of humanity.
To the Bene Gesserit, Alia kills herself to kill the Baron within her, and Wormboy Leto becomes Emperor. Leto's plan will apparently save the human species, but to be the savior, he has to give up his humanity and become a monstrous tyrant. Dune rejects the heroic messiah Paul, and instead turns to a darker, more complicated leader. Book 4 is God Emperor of Dune, set thousands of years after the previous books. Leto rules the universe with an iron fist. His plan, the Golden Path, is to oppress humanity for thousands of years, to teach the species to want freedom, to grow stronger and to think for ourselves. Leto also breeds the Atreides bloodline to create Siona Atreides.
That is interesting. That I did not know, but that is basically what I was just saying. The idea of being like, I will be the villain, and to make people rise up and so on. Like, if your best solution is, oh, let me just oppress everybody and then make them want freedom so that they can just overthrow me, or like yearn to want to think for themselves, why not just teach that instead? Why not just do that? But that's what makes these characters so interesting. Like, you follow them and you're like, man, yeah, like you see the nuances of the situation, you see the complexity of what's going on, and you're like, man, yeah, maybe this is the only solution in this horrible world. It reminds me a lot of, ironically, the other God Emperor, the God Emperor of Mankind in 40K, of like how he ruled the Imperium sort of with an iron fist. Again, complicated. Like, he very much, like, he outlawed a bunch of stuff, religion, all this other stuff, and like he was the one true ruler and had everybody, despite not wanting to be worshipped as a god, they worshipped him as a god. And he like accepted that reverence, and eventually we see his downfall. We see the Horus heresy and everything that happened with the Horus heresy. And obviously, I'm skipping over it for brevity's sake, so obviously this will sound kind of out of order to my 40K nerds out there. But it definitely does remind me of 40K's Emperor with Leto II.
Siona has a special gene that makes her invisible to people who can see the future, so Siona's genes will free humanity from the control of prescient people. Leto falls in love with a woman called Hui. Trapped in his monstrous worm body, Leto is tormented by the loss of his humanity, his tragic self-sacrifice to save the species. Over the centuries, Leto resurrects Duncan Idaho over and over, and he allows Duncan and Siona to rebel against him. He teaches Duncan and Siona so they grow strong enough to eventually destroy him. In the end, Duncan and Siona kill Leto by using the blind obedience of Naylor, a fanatic of Leto's religion. Leto's dying body rejuvenates the sandworms and spice on Arrakis, and humanity is finally freed from his control. After millennia of oppression, humanity bursts out across the universe in the Scattering, a mass migration into space. Humanity expands and evolves to save it from stagnation and extinction, just as Leto planned.
Again, why not just orchestrate that in a far better way, dude? Why not just do that from the get-go? Why not, if that would be like a king in the real world oppressing its people and being like, I'm going to teach them a lesson, and then after I'm dead, they'll be free to do what they want, and then they'll go and scatter. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's not the best idea.
Golden path gives humanity a universe of infinite possibilities. Book 5, Heretics of Dune, is set another 1,000 years in the future. The Bene Gesserit control much of the old empire, but a new threat comes from the Scattering. The Honored Matres are a wild offshoot from the Bene Gesserit who use sex to enslave people. The Bene Gesserit train a girl called...
Whoa, what? That's sick as fuck. That is awesome. That is actually pretty cool. But that's such an early 80s sci-fi idea of use sex. Your orgasms will blow out the universe.
Chiana, who can control sandworms, and they hope to breed her with a new resurrected Duncan Idaho.
No, he's back.
Use her as a religious force to control people. But there's also a plot by the Tleilaxu, a bunch of religious genetic scientists who look like creepy grey elves. The Tleilaxu secretly modified this new Duncan, giving him special sex powers that terrify the Honored Matres. Bene Gesserit leader Taraza uses Duncan to lure the Honored Matres into destroying the planet Arrakis, because by killing the planet's sandworms, they destroy the remnants of Emperor Leto's consciousness and end his influence on the universe. The Bene Gesserit take a sandworm to make spice on their own planet called Chapterhouse. Taraza is helped by Miles Teg, a legendary Atreides Mentat soldier who sacrifices himself and dies on Arrakis. In Book 6, Chapterhouse Dune,
Wow, that is all over the place. That is crazy. The plot's plotting. It's shaking. It's certainly something. Leto has been gone for 1,000 years, and now this is really interesting. It's so complex, but it almost feels like meaninglessly so, but also at the same time, like, wow, this is an epic. Like, it's just so encompassing, and I kind of like it. I really like it.
The Honored Matres rampage across the Empire, hunting to exterminate the Bene Gesserit. The Bene Gesserit go into hiding on the planet Chapterhouse under the leadership of Dawi O'Drady, an unusually rebellious Reverend Mother who wants her sisterhood to change and evolve to survive this crisis. O'Drady creates a young clone of Miles Teg, who is her father, and she trains a
I'm surprised nobody's tried to resurrect Paul yet. Like, in the past 10,000 years, nobody's tried to resurrect Paul. Like, there hasn't been one religious fanatic that's like, maybe we should resurrect him.
captured Honored Matre, Mabella, to be a Bene Gesserit. Mabella and Duncan fall in love. Teg
there's
leads
Duncan
an
again.
attack on the Honored Matres, but the Matres defeat Teg with a secret weapon, and they kill O'Drady. So Mabella infiltrates and takes over the Honored Matres from within. Then she merges the Honored Matres with the Bene Gesserit, assimilating them to create a new, stronger sisterhood. Mabella has changed,
The Bene
so
Matres.
Duncan decides to leave her.
Right?
He and Shiana steal a spaceship and escape the sisterhood, along with the last living Tleilaxu master and a secret group of Jewish people and some sandworms and a Van Gogh painting. Together,
Huh. Interesting. That is pretty interesting. The people that you were fighting against now has one with us. Duncan Idaho has sex powers, and then two Jewish people. Interesting choice. Sandworms, and then a Van Gogh painting that has survived like 10,000 years. What? Also, I don't smoke, by the way. I just have this on my desk. What? This, I certainly hope there's no subtextual undertones with that. Of like some fucking like anti-Semitism on Herbert's part, because I mean, he was a known homophobe. That's why he made Harkonnen, Vladimir Harkonnen, not only a pedophile but also a gay pedophile.
Together, they start a new journey, free in the infinite universe. In the final chapter, we see a mysterious elderly couple called Daniel and Marty. These two are apparently advanced face dancers from the Scattering who escaped the control of the Tleilaxu, but Daniel and Marty also seem to represent the author Frank Herbert and his wife Beverly. As they work in their garden, they break the fourth wall a little, chatting about Dune's characters and the unfinished plot lines like the Tleilaxu. They admit that the characters got away from them. They are now beyond the author's control. The book ends with a loving tribute to Bev, who died the previous year, and the year after publication, Frank died. So Frank never wrote a neat final conclusion to the Dune series. But this open-ended last chapter fits the central themes of Dune. The characters
Yeah.
get freedom and self-determination. Not even the author controls them anymore. And Daniel and Marty in their garden show the simple human warmth that is the emotional heart of Dune. Dune
That is really cool. Ending it with, yeah, even if it's kind of like a loose plot point of getting away from them, they do have self-determination now. They got away from the Bene Gesserit and the honored matres, and were able to choose for themselves of what they wanted to do. And as it says right here, an unrestricted universe. They went out. That's pretty cool.
Dune was never really about the plot as much as it's about the ideas. A philosophy of the mind, of thinking, of politics, technology, of how to live in a chaotic universe. So, we're making a video called The Philosophy of Dune to explore the themes and big ideas of the series. We're also going to cover the new Game of Thrones TV show, House of the Dragon, which is based on a book called Fire and Blood. Fire and Blood and the entire Dune series are available on audiobook. You can get any one of these
Audible!
right now at audible.com/ASX. Sign up for a Premium Plus trial membership, and you can choose an audiobook to keep, even if you cancel.
Okay, I'm gonna skip past that. You got your bag. You got your bag. You got your bag. Is that it?
And thanks to the patrons, including J Lee 60, Micah Prude.
Okay. Yeah, thank you to those patrons. Wow, that is wow. Zoom in here. There we go. That is really cool. I wasn't expecting it to go so all over the place, but at that end there, I think I've watched this video before, but I forgot about it. I forgot about all of it. That's really cool. I was kind of picking up already immediately that, yeah, it's not about Atreides, it's not about all of them and so on. It's about the world and the universe, not just the plot itself. And that's always a really interesting thing to do with science fiction. That was kind of like what happened with Star Wars and the EU novels, about how it kind of just went out into just exploring that universe. And obviously, if you've ever read any of the EU books with Star Wars, it got really crazy with the Skywalker lineage, and it kind of took a Dune route of having all this crazy stuff happen. I'm sure you can be like, oh, well, they just copied Dune if you look at it on the surface, but you should never look at something on the surface. You should always kind of look a little deeper. But then again, book covers are made to be judged at first glance. If you don't want to get judged by your cover, make a good cover. Or however that goes. Yeah, I think I've gotten a lot of my thoughts out already through the intermediate pausing of the video. I know there are even more books that were made by Frank's son. I don't know if Alt-Shift-X made videos on those. If you want to see me react to the philosophy of Dune and you want to see my take on that, leave it down in the comments. I will definitely do it then if anyone wants me to. If not, if I don't see anything within like maybe the first few weeks of the video being out, I'll watch it on my own or just make a video anyway, because I do what I want. But yeah, I really do enjoy it. I always like kind of, would you label Dune as grimdark? I don't know if you would label it as grimdark. It is certainly grim and it is certainly dark, but it's got a lot of that weird, quirky 80s sci-fi, 70s, 80s sci-fi that makes it not feel as grimdark as something, say, that maybe like pulp magazines had really dark fantasy and so on, and science fiction mags. But yeah, I really enjoy this. I've also seen Quinn's ideas. I'm pretty sure those were the videos that I watched when I was talking about before. Actually, I know that they were. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, let me know your thoughts on the Dune and the philosophy of Dune, if you agree with it or how you interpret it and so on, and what you think the book tells you and so on. And I think the thing whenever it comes to interpretations of stories is that the interpretations are always important. They always are. That's one of the beauties of writing. That's one of the beauties of literature, whether it be books, comics, manga, anime, TV shows, movies, is that a lot of it can be up to interpretation. And even if it is blatantly telling you a message, you don't have to agree with that message. Like, even if the books are telling us, hey, this is what needs to happen. The best course of action is to oppress people and then let them learn their freedom. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that's fucking stupid. But I can still be a fan of these books and come to my own interpretation and conclusions about them, even knowing that, like, maybe, like, for instance, like a shitty author or so on, I can still be a fan of them while being critical of its contents and so on, and being critical of those troubling parts, right? I think that's something that we can all kind of agree on when it comes to stuff like that. Because we like things. We can like things even if it comes from a questionable source, but as long as we question those sources and the contents of said things that we are reading and understand what the problems are, we can. And if you still enjoy those afterwards, you can still enjoy them. But yeah, other than that, if you want to support me, I have a Cash App down below. #Deku Games with a S. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.